The parent-child relationship, a story of healing and redemption. I never thought I'd have the courage to face my father. For years, our relationship had been fractured, a series of misunderstandings, arguments, and silence. He was the man who raised me with tough love, expecting me to be strong, disciplined, and perfect. But I always felt like I fell short. The more I tried to meet his expectations, the more I resented him for not seeing me for who I was. When I left home, I thought distance would make it easier. But the weight of our unresolved pain followed me everywhere. Every phone call felt obligatory, strained, as if we were strangers who happened to share the same blood. I carried anger, sadness, and a longing for a connection I wasn't sure we could ever have. The breaking point came after he had a heart attack. I was sitting in the hospital waiting room, staring at the pale green walls and the clock that seemed to mock my every thought. What if he didn't make it? What if the last words we had exchanged were those cold, sharp ones? I said in anger. You never cared about me anyway. The memory burned like fire. When the doctor told me he was stable, I felt a flood of relief, but it was mixed with something deeper, guilt. I'd spent so much time focusing on what he had done wrong that I'd never considered what he might have been carrying. For the first time, I wondered, had he grown up with the same tough love? Had he been trying, in his own flawed way, to give me what he thought I needed? The next day, I walked into his hospital room. He looked smaller, older, more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I wanted to apologize, to pour out years of emotions, but the words caught in my throat. Finally, I managed, "Hi, Dad." He looked up at me, and in his eyes, I saw something I hadn't expected, fear. Not of dying, but of me, of what I might say or not say. And then he spoke, his voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. "I'm sorry if I've ever let you down." That was all it took. The dam broke. I sat down beside him, and for the first time, I let it all out. The hurt, the confusion, the longing. And he listened, truly listened. He didn't try to defend himself or explain away his actions. He just let me speak. And when I was done, he said something I'll never forget. "I've always been proud of you." I just didn't know how to say it. In that moment, something shifted. I realized that my father wasn't the invincible figure I'd always imagined. He was a man, flawed and human, trying his best with what he knew. And I wasn't just his child. I was a bridge to a better connection, one we both desperately needed. The days that followed were filled with conversations we'd avoided for years. We talked about his childhood, his fears, and his regret. I shared my dreams, my struggles, and my hope for a relationship that wasn't perfect, but real. Slowly, the walls between us came down. Today, my father and I are closer than I ever thought possible. We've learned to laugh, to share, to forgive. The journey wasn't easy, but it was worth every tear, every awkward pause, every moment of vulnerability. I've learned that healing doesn't mean forgetting the pain. It means choosing to build something stronger in its place. And sometimes, it's the child who must take the first step to mend what is broken. Because love, no matter how bruised, is always worth fighting for. Closing thought: healing a relationship takes courage, vulnerability, and patience. It's not about erasing the past, but about creating a new path forward. When we choose love over pride, we discover the power to mend what once seemed broken beyond repair.